who was one of the most disciplined men in the evangelical period, the birth of the evangelical movement in England, with the preaching and the writing and so on. Who was known for his disciplined life? John Wesley, yeah. And he wrote books. He traveled 100,000 miles on horseback and carriage. It was like amazing. He just believed. The Puritans were kind of known for like redeeming the time and being very organized and very disciplined in their lives. And I think it's a great lesson. Also in the emotions, we didn't mention any kind of godly sorrow, but this is also, godly sorrow is also a God-given, connected with the mind of Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 10. Also, Christ was a man of sorrows. Also, blessed are they that mourn. They will be comforted, and that is for the sorrow for the condition of the world, the political environment of the United States of America. Okay, we're finished with that. Let's move on. The disappointments that you can have in life, the loss of a loved one. Jesus wept at the tomb of Lazarus, broken families, death, disappointments, because of the mind. And this is where godly anger comes in. Godly anger, we must be angry. Ephesians chapter 4, we have this, I'm going to turn there with me. Ephesians 4, be angry, verse 26. Ephesians 4:26. Be angry and sin not. So anger, and then you have not sinning. What would be anger that it'd be sinful? The Greek word orge, O-R-G, long E, and then thumos is wrath. This is a much more stronger wrath of man, James chapter 1. And this is outrage. This is tantrum, powerful. Thumos is emotional outburst, rage, wrath of man, like a man blowing his temper. I remember the story of a guy whose wife committed adultery. He went over to the house of the man responsible, and he took a baseball bat, and he broke the window of every car in the driveway. I think there were 3 cars in the driveway. He went around the house. He broke every window he could reach with the baseball bat. He went around the house just breaking the windows of the house, and he was just ripping angry, okay? And maybe that was okay. I don't know. I don't think it was, actually. I think it was illegal, and he was breaking the law doing it. But he didn't care. He was in a rage. This is Proverbs chapter 6 also, regarding that particular sin. The end of the chapter 6, you can read that. Okay, so an anger that lasts more than a minute or so, you better get a handle on that. You better check that out, because you may be sinning in the flesh. And the mind of Christ is connected with emotion, and it may be anger, as Jesus was angry in Mark chapter 3. He was very angry. Chapter 3, verse 5. They even thought, the people that were with him thought he was insane. But you can be sure that he was under control, and it was linked with God's mind and his mind of righteousness. But it was and anger. The second example was when he made a whip. He made a cord, and then he drove the people out of the temple who were selling, changing money. The braiding of the cord to make a whip was linked to the whole idea of a slow anger. An anger, he was under control, but he wanted to express the mind. Do you see the mind and the linkage with the emotion, which was healthy, and that was God's will. All that being said, if you're a man, be very careful with that subject, because you can many times be wrong with your anger. And most men have a problem with anger. And it's linked to the problem with the premise for what's going on in the heart. So let's draw the fallen nature and make a few comments here. Yes? Yes, compassion is very good. Compassion, yes. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, here is the fallen heart of man, and he has many problems emotionally, and they are three fundamental emotions connected with his old sin nature. Now, what's the difference between this picture and the other one? No truth. There's no rod of truth, no ministry of the Holy Spirit. So he has his fallen nature. What are the two things that he's looking for, that he's building his life on, that he's trying to find? Security and value. Okay, but he doesn't have it in an absolute sense. He has it relatively. If he's skillful, if he has it, it comes and it goes. But the three emotions are fear. What's the next one? Shame and guilt. Where do we find this? In the Genesis chapter 3, with the fall of man. This fundamental problem that man has in his life has an effect. It's in his mind and his emotion. That there's something missing. He can be the result is that he's fundamentally he's insecure, easily insecure. Just change his environment and he feels insecure. The immediate thing that comes to his consciousness is that, am I accepted? Am I okay? Do I belong? Is somebody going to make a joke about me or point me out? Am I going to be a spectacle of some kind? Am I okay? Am I accepted? Am I normal? Because naturally he doesn't know, it's always moving, and this is because of the fall. It's a great subject. Wow, a lot to be said about it. The next thing is here. Did I give you that list? Depression? Okay. Stress? Frustration? Did I give you those words? Okay, I'll give them to you again. These are very common, and there are Bible stories on all of these emotions and references for you. Insecurity, depression, stress, frustration, inferiority, guilt, loneliness, fear, bewilderment, and bitterness. Apart from this list, a word that I use a lot, and you see it a lot in the Bible, is jealousy and envy. They are different. One has to do with people. Jealousy is more regarding relationships, and envy, material things, or envy because of somebody else's advantage, something they are benefiting from, and you resent it, or are just simply envious of them. This goes to this picture. You can say my mind, emotions, and then it affects my relationships, because these emotions are so strong, and they will determine for me my language and how I relate to people. And people can hear in my speech or in my posturing and my relationships with them what is really in my heart. And what is in my heart is just the need to be loved. Can you imagine there's like two people, both of them have a curse in their life. Cursed is the man that trusts in the flesh. And that curse is seen in our inherent insecurity. And when you have two people that are insecure and they are needy, then you can see the easy turbulence that can happen in the relationship. Tim DeLewis asked me one time, could we speak about resentment? Just to make a comment about that. Another emotion. I looked it up in the dictionary. It's not in our New Testament. Written that way. It is similar to bitterness, which is a common word in our New Testament, James 3:14. Also the word jealousy, Romans 13:13. But it's an excitement, a passion, which proceeds from a sense of wrong that has happened to us. So a man or a woman, they could resent what has happened to them because they have a moral sense that what has happened is not right, and they resent it. So we have a child growing up may resent the way they grew up, bitterness, jealousy. Look at these words. Wow. Scary. Imagine your life being controlled by these 4 words right there. Wow. Talk about a disaster. A young person growing up on the mission field could resent the fact that they grew up on the mission field. A missionary, a pastor's kid, the child could resent the fact that he grew up in the church. His dad is a pastor, and he has to go to church all the time and listen to his dad preach. He could resent it. Everything could be perfect. A woman could marry like Mr. Universe, like Mr. Charming. He could be amazing, and she could end up resenting it. Where does the resentment come from? It's some small moral violation. But the problem is that these emotions are being controlled by what? See that diagram? The emotions are a result of the hole in the heart, the fall. And even if you put the person in the most imperfect situation, they will find how you don't love them enough, or what you did was not right, or what happened to them in this life should have never happened. And they have all the emotional fuel, the activity for a curse. And go back to our Jeremiah 17 teaching. Remember how fundamental this teaching is, and we're not getting away from it. Jeremiah 15, 5-9, remember? What does it say? Blessed is the man, and cursed is the man. And who's blessed? But he that trusts in the Lord. And who's cursed? But he that trusts in his flesh. It has nothing to do with you were raised on the mission field, or your dad is a pastor, or your husband didn't treat you fairly, or you grew up on the other side of the tracks, or because of this or that. It isn't that. It is he that trusts in the Lord is blessed. He is. And this blessing is this one, the heart with the truth that is the source. This truth is the source of your blessing. This is John 8:32. You will know the truth that will set you free. The new birth, that new birth affects your heart, radiates to the mind, and the mind is linked with the emotions and the will. And you find yourself in it with a package, which we gave the words, a series of words. Discipline was one of them. Now you become a disciplined person. And this should be repeated. It's like, this is amazing. You actually, because of your spiritual life, you may not be a disciplined person, but now because of your new birth, you have a mind and emotions and will where, like the hand on the clock, the minute hand and the second hand is really where you are living. And because you are living that way, you are very disciplined. And you hit priorities, like the priorities happen because the smaller decision-making that I have every day is mine. It's my decision. I decide what I think. I decide what I meditate on, what I think about. I decide who my friends are, where I go, where I do not go. I decide. It's my life. It's amazing. Here's another little tip. This is very worldly philosophy. It's called fatalism. It's amazing. You know what it means in word? It means you don't have a choice. Okay? You have no choice. That's called fatalism. You don't choose anything. Everything's decided for you. In all the religions of the world except ours, and I'm saying that in general terms, but I know in Islam it's fatalistic, Buddhism is fatalistic, and Hinduism is fatalistic. Those are the four main ones are those three plus ours, and you can add Judaism. We are the ones that we have a worldview where we know we can decide, and it makes a difference. It's amazing. How do you know that? Because the mind of Christ, the Bible is saying, God is saying, you changed my mind. I'm going to do this. And the natural response to that would be, how could we ever change God's mind? But that's what he said. I can ask him and he will do it. I can make a decision and he can change his mind. This is not fatalism. This is the mind of Christ. This is God's gift to us. Amazing. If that is so, then look at the amazing picture that we're talking about here, is that this truth affects my life in such a way that it affects me. We have the new heart, and we have the mind that is able to understand this. We have the effect on our feelings, and then our decision making. And our will is a big part of our new life. I decide. Where is this written? Proverbs. Turn with me to Proverbs 16, please. We're going to wrap it up pretty soon here. Boy, I'm excited about this. This is good. 16:32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. Why is he slow to anger? Because he has the mind of Christ. He is slow to anger. Well, why don't you ever get so angry? I get angry, but it takes me a while. There has to be something behind it. It's not just an emotion where I throw a temper tantrum in the grocery store like a 2-year-old, like my grandson or you would do, My daughter Amy is shopping, and he used to be, he'd look at her, he wants candy, and he'd just drop. I'd just start screaming at the top of his lungs, and she'd be there. And as a parent, she'd have to, okay, this is so embarrassing to me. I either buy him the candy he wants so he's quiet, or else I endure the shame. I don't have control over my child. That's a parental decision, right? But imagine an adult dropping to the ground. That's what they do. They just drop to the ground. They start kicking and screaming because they want to get their way. And they use emotion to get their way. There are so many people that are screaming and crying and angry, and that's how they rule and govern. But look at the verse again, verse 32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. He's like, it's a high-quality person, because for him to get angry, there has to be something behind the anger, and it's like to his honor that it takes a lot for him to become angry. Not just, my clothes aren't washed or ironed, or you made the wrong hot cereal for me this morning, or why didn't you pick up the towels that were on the floor in the bathroom, or, I can't believe you parked the car that way when you know that I want the car parked that way, and basically he's too shallow, and he should be looking for something more in his relationship, and that's to be love. Love covers a lot of transgressions, and love, how's it go? Seeks love. What is that word? What seeks love? Forgiveness maybe seeks love, or I forget how it goes. Okay, verse 32. And he that rules his spirit than he that takes a city. And this is to do with the word discipline. Ruling your spirit. Living in adoration. Here's the last short list. And it is your new life affects you. This is how I remember my list here. Getting rid, okay, here. If you will find you can't get rid of bad thoughts. They just come back at you again and again. Has it ever happened to you? Can't get rid of bad thoughts. You're easily tempted. Easily tempted. You find yourself like living constantly in temptation. Like you just are constantly concerned about it. You cannot avoid wrong situations. You're drawn to wrong situations. This would be a great sermon here for the church. Cannot avoid wrong situations. You find yourself, I see it happen to certain people, they're drawn to temptation, drawn to the wrong place, and they're drawn to the wrong people. They could have one guy from another planet walk across and they'll gravitate to that person. I mean, it could be 1,000 spirit-filled believers, but they'll find that crazy guy who's insane, and they choose the wrong people. Choose the wrong people. What's wrong with this situation, this story here? They are attracted to them because there's something not right in their spirit, heart, mind, and emotions. They want the weird joke or the funny, off-color, lewd, sensual humor joke. They want the temptation. They get together. I brought a guy, I had 3 guys. I brought them out to eat one Sunday. And one of them says to the other one, after I'm gone, do you want to go smoke weed? So I'm with these 2 guys, and I'm ministering them. We're having fellowship. After I'm gone, the other one says to the other one, you want to go smoke weed? And then he tells me about it. I go, wow, that's great. I'm ministering, I'm preaching here Sunday morning. We go in the car, and that happens after, and I don't know anything about it. Isn't that interesting? Well, that's the way it goes in the ministry. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Hey, I got the last thing. We got the heart. And remember the mind, interpersonal relationships. We got to really finish up here. Interpersonal relationships. And I have, intimacy. This is what happens. Intimacy, commitment. This is the sequence. Commitment and passion. So we're just running now, but we'll get to this later. This is what will happen. This is beautiful. New life. Now we're together in the Lord. You know what happens? You find yourself connected. You're talking the same way. You're feeling it. You're sensing it. You have passion. You actually love each other. And then you're able to make a commitment. And you say, I'm there. And somebody says, would you like to, do you want to pray together? And you go in your heart, yeah, I do. And you're there. And there's a sense of fellowship and connection. And you just say, wow, this is amazing. It's the result of God's great grace in the heart that has affected our mind and our emotions and our will. Now it is affecting our relationships. And we're very much satisfied with that. And that's a great gift to us. Okay. Amen. Would you read from page 83 in your book? If you haven't already, to page 93. 83 to 93 in this book. That's your assignment. And study it. You are dismissed.